it said that the field was the world, and the Son of Man is the one that's going to plant the good seed. But we also see here that we have an enemy. That enemy is the devil, and he's planting the bad seed. And the point I wanted to really bring out for everybody to understand, because there's a kind of a misconception out there. I mean, we see over and over again how when there's evil in the world, I don't know what it is, but man always has that tendency to want to blame God for the things that take place. We don't realize that we have an enemy, and a lot of people in the world, when it comes to that, whether you're a believer, you're a non-believer, we do have that in common. We have the same enemy. The same enemy that's trying to destroy us as believers is trying to destroy everybody. It says in the Bible that the powers of darkness, Satan, the enemy has three goals: kill, steal, and destroy. That's what he's trying to do. So ultimately, whenever that comes about, it's coming from that source. But we always want to blame God, and we see in this parable here of the tares, we said God sowed good seed in his field. He didn't bring the bad in, the evil in. That's what came from the evil one. The evil one is the one that brought all that evil into the world. And we see that in the parable. God, now I understand why people do that, because they look at it and say, well, isn't God all powerful? Couldn't he do something about it? Yes, he is all powerful. And it is God who we see even from this parable that is restraining the evil one from totally wiping us out. There's a verse in the Bible that says that if it wasn't for God cutting those days short, there would be no flesh left. The evil one would literally wipe us all out. It's only his hand that's restraining it and keeping it to the degree that it is. And this is something we need to understand, especially as believers, to understand that God said that in this parable. He said, yeah, I'm going to allow them to grow together. Why? Because as John showed earlier in that verse, and Peter there, he's patient toward everybody. He wants everybody to come to repentance. He's given that time for people to become part of his family and to enter into the kingdom of heaven. That's why he's being patient through all this. But make no mistake, the evil that's in the world has one source, and it comes from the evil one. And this parable makes that very clear. And I don't want us to forget that. And I want us to always remember that, so that when those times come and it seems like something evil is coming about, and it's hard sometimes for believers to understand, say, wait a minute, God, I love you and I'm serving you. Why is this evil overtaking me? Why don't you, do away with it and remove it from me? And in some cases, that's why we have prayer. Some cases that is. Some cases he's working everything together for the good. There's going to be some people that are going to suffer, and things are going to take place. But we overwhelmingly overcome. Neither death nor life nor any created thing can separate us from the love of God. So that's ultimately going to be our finish in this. So I just want us to realize that when it comes to this, God is in control. He knows there's evil in the world, but he's not the source of it. And we got to understand that. It's an important principle for us to understand. And even the people out there, if you're someone that haven't entered into the kingdom, don't believe in the Lord, you have the same enemy. The same enemy that's trying to destroy us is trying to destroy you, whether you admit it or not. He's trying to destroy you. And you are receiving a blessing from God, whether you realize it or not, because if it wasn't for God's hand, you would already be wiped out. It's only his hand of mercy and love that restrains the evil one from totally wiping us out. That's why this is such an important thing. We as believers have to understand and learn what Job understood. The story of Job in the Bible, people don't realize in the beginning, he was blessed of God. He's a follower of God. And Satan came and told God, say, hey, he's only serving you because you protect him and you love him. He said, oh, that's not true. He really loves me. And so therein was the thing. He removed his hand to that degree. Now, notice, he removed his hand, which means Satan was always ready to destroy Job and do all the bad things. It was only God that kept him from even totally wiping him out. But he allowed it for that moment to number one, teach Job a lesson, and also show the powers of darkness that you don't control the people that love me. They really love me with a sincere heart. Job understood that. And it's so evidently shown in that story, if you go back and read that, but that when all these things overtook Job, I mean, he lost all of his family, all of his kids were killed. He lost everything he had, materially got stolen and taken from him. And then lastly, his own health was taken away from him. You know, was he was stricken with a very painful disease, to the point that his wife standing there in this point was being used as a pawn of Satan to speak the thing, came to him and told him, said, why don't you just curse God and die? That's no different than what we see people saying in the world when bad things are happening. Oh, blame God. God did this. That's what she was saying to him. But notice what his response was. Woman, you speak foolishly. Why? Because shall we not accept good from God and not bad? But what's he saying? He understands that God is in control. That's what his statement was saying. That if it wasn't for God, what he was telling her, if it wasn't for God, all the things that we had, we wouldn't even have had in the first place. Because it's only God's hand of mercy that has kept the evil one from doing what he has now done to us at this moment in time. And then as you go through that story, you see how God rewards Job for his faithfulness. In the end, everything that he lost, he received double back. So he didn't really lose anything. And that's part of the reason why we have such trouble understanding the circumstances when these negative things happen to us, because we don't see the whole picture. We only see what's happening right in front of us. We don't understand that the same God who said that, like when Jesus was talking to his disciples on that night, he said, hey, they're going to come and some of you are going to be killed for my name. And a few verses down, he says, not a hair on your head will be harmed. So those two seem to be opposite. No, but what he's saying is, he's saying nothing, even death, destruction, anything can take you out of the palm of my hand. I don't care what happens, you're still in my hand. And even in the midst of the suffering that Job was going through, he knew deep down inside, God was his answer. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If you're going through a hard time, if it seems like there's destruction, when we see the evil out there, go to the one and only one that can help all of us. And that's God. He's our only hope. So we need to devote ourselves to him and pray to him and seek him and abide in him. If you belong to him, abide in him. He's faithful. If you're someone who doesn't know him, he's your only hope. I don't care whether you admit it or not. Where else are you going to get hope? You ain't going to have no hope nowhere else. Everything else is going to fail. So turn yourself over to the Lord. That would be my encouragement for everybody. But remember, God's not the author of evil. He's not. Does he allow it sometimes for this appointed time, for the reasons that he knows? Yes, that does happen. But overwhelmingly, God has us in the palm of his hand if we would just abide in him.